If you're still tracking and categorizing all your own expenses, I have a message from your CPA. Stop. If you're listening to this podcast, chances are your goals include growing your sales. And one way to do that is delegating admin responsibilities by trading time for money. Rising Stock and MyBooks.pro is exactly what you need. Rising Stock is an all encompassing financial tracking and coaching program where MyBooks.pro is exactly what it sounds like. They just do your books. You can choose to just have them track your expenses or take advantage of everything they have to offer. Do your business and your CPA a favor by scheduling a free intro call today at linktree/CSP60. That's linktr.ee/CSP60. That's linktree/CSP60 with a dot before the two E's. Thanks for joining us on the CSP Hot Hands 15 Minutes of Flames edition of the podcast. My name is Brett Wiggins, and I get to serve as your host. We know sometimes you don't have a full hour to soak in every moment from our 60 minutes of fire. So we've created a condensed version of highlights for each episode for you to be able to enjoy. Your 15 minutes of flames begin now. Let's do it. Well, you clearly excel at push weeks, and you've used that business gift layer as a really awesome way to help out your SC2 push and pull back their gifting. I've also been told that you have some of the best work-life balance within our CSP community. I personally, I find the way I achieve that is through rhythm, not through balance. If I try to sell myself on balance, I'm almost like fighting against natural swings of seasons that I don't need to. But when it comes to you, I think I'll use the term balance just so everybody kind of knows what we're talking about. How do you not fall into the trap of maybe comparing yourself to others when other people are going at 100 miles an hour, what feels like the entire year for every single contest? How do you not do that?
Yeah, so of course I do, right? So it's not that I don't at all. I do feel the pressure when, I'm taking time off and my peers are gunning, going for it and selling big. I do feel the pressure. I really, I fully embrace the power pusher mindset, right? That like I'm very project focused. So it's less about like the consistency for me and more about like what's the next project, right? So for right now, it's the fall, right? We have six weeks left. This is my big crunch time, right? So I was actually breaking down my numbers on a call earlier. My goal is to do 118,000 between now and the end of the year, right? Which would be a big, massive increase in sales, right? It would be growth for the year. But that's the project right now. That's the focus, right? And then once that is over, I have already have a week in the calendar of time off that I'm just spending time with the family, the friends, people that have been hitting me up and reaching out. They're already in the calendar for the fun activities we're going to do after that big push period. And that'll be the focus, right? It'll be fun, time off, recouping, recharging the battery. And then all of a sudden, January will hit, and I'll be back into a push period of sales, of shows, of key events, our big home show, all of that, right? So just kind of that's my ebb and flow. I like to go 100% at whatever I'm doing, whether that's work, whether that's a push period, whether that's time off. I like just go all in on whatever the project is in front of me.
I love that you said that because I think a lot of people see somebody like you who's built a pretty awesome life and they use the term work-life balance and they envision you having the same schedule every week. And the reason I'm so glad you answer the way you do is because my response to people like that is it's rhythm, man. There are times of the year where I have a conversation with my wife and say, hey, I'm thinking about doing blank, this, whatever January program for us coming up. Winter break is, I can create something really, really great development wise for the summer. It also impacts my end of the year bonus, XYZ. What are you okay with me committing to outside the outside the realm of normal? So we have the freedom and we can do blank in February or whatever. And then there's times where I'll go to my pilot manager and I'll say, hey, my daughter's starting school in August. I'm going to start doing drop off and pickup before and after. My work day is pretty much 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. for the next 4 months. That's the rhythm I'm in right now. But hey, let me tell you this. Here's what's going to create come December when we're in. And it's more of a constantly kind of shifting that balance versus the same thing over and over. How, when it comes to staying motivated when you're project based and you are running your own race, I think a lot of people use the Cutco created contests to stay motivated, which is, I think it works when you're new really, really well. But then eventually you're like, oh, that life ain't for the long-term CSP usually. What's keeping you motivated on a daily basis when you're in that project work mode?
Yeah, so I think it's always about we learned in our first push period, right? Our first 10 days on the job, your why, right? It's all about your why,
Yep.
and a big why for me is my family. That's something I constantly reflect on and lean to. Why am I working so hard if not to create an amazing lifestyle with my family, right? With my closest, my loved ones, right? So I know by working hard today and working hard at this event and doing the calls now, that's gonna, like you said, open up those times in the future that will create those magical moments, right? Like
Yeah.
we just booked a trip in April for a friend's wedding in Dominican Republic, right? And that'll be like
Nice.
a week long like fun vacation celebration. We just booked that on Friday, and that was, once again, that's a byproduct of the hard week from the fair season, right? From the earnings I've made over the last month, was able to have that experience now in the calendar, and that's something we're going to look forward to. We're going to be excited about every single week until it gets here.
And when your personal and professional big rocks, your projects that you're talking about, um, how do you decide what those are going to be? And then how do you make sure you honor those whenever, because it's easy to talk about right now, but when the bullets start flying, I don't know what busy season is for you. It sounds like now's busy season within the business. Maybe there's a busy season at home where you're not available as much work wise. Like, how do you honor those big rocks that you chose once those bullets start flying?
It's a great question, Brett. So how do I honor the big rocks? I think it first comes down to just setting boundaries, right? What are your boundaries? What are your non-negotiables? Right? What are you going to stand behind that's going to ultimately, keep you elevated, right? That's I guess that's really what it comes down to me, like
Mm,
if if I know that this time off with the family, is that important to me, I'm going to set boundaries around that schedule that doesn't allow that to take over that time,
mm,
right?
mm. Yeah, boundaries are huge. Got to set them ahead of time beforehand, right? I think we teach people how available we are based on our response. Like I used to be, oh, everybody always texts me all the time. They're calling me at 10 p.m. And then I feel like somebody asked me, like, well, do you reply? And I'm like, yeah. They're like, that's why you're teaching them you're available at those times. I feel like with malls in comparison to, I'm just going to say shows to keep it simple, there's something, at least on my teams that I help, there is a mindset block. There's something causing them to view malls so much differently, or I don't know. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the key is to view them differently. What do you think is the issue for the rep that crushes at the booth, but really struggles at the kiosk? Like, what do you think is most often wrong?
So I think the first thing, I think the really the only difference with malls is just a different mindset and mentality when it comes to the malls. Now, one thing I will touch on, if you guys still are using carts and KRMUs and all that kind of thing, I would
Mhm.
encourage you guys to move out of that and into more of a traditional table setup like we use at other events.
Okay.
We've noticed that all of our malls that we've done that, our sales organically just from going from that setup to our traditional setup, we sell a lot more. I think the one mall boosted by 50% just from that one switch we did with
Wow.
no other changes. Right. So I would highly encourage that. And there's different strategies and ways, and we can
Sure.
talk offline of that, of
Yeah.
how to make that happen. We've done it at both our Kia malls, and it's led to great sales because of that.
Awesome.
But to get back to your original question, it just comes to the mentality. I find that a lot of reps that have struggles with malls, it's because the malls are very busy, but they're not very busy. Right. They see all this activity and all these people walking around shopping around them, but they don't feel busy because they're not talking to anybody, right? And that can wear people down, especially multiple days in a row of that, right? If it's like, wow, the mall's busy, but I'm not talking to anybody, right?
It's
So I
almost
think that's
worse than
the
the mall being dead.
yeah, right. You're like, there's
Yeah.
all this opportunity out
Like you
here,
see,
but I
it's
have
like
no
when you're
opportunity,
when you're
right?
single, you just got broken up with, and it feels like every single one of your friends is posting about their awesome relationship, and you're like, someone loved me, man. What's going
Right.
on?
So I think it goes down to the mentality, right? I very much embrace the five to thrive concept when it comes to the malls, right? I know that I don't need to talk to every single person in the mall to make them all a great day. I just need to have five quality interactions today to make it a great day. And that really comes down to my skill set and my confidence within my ability. That as long as I have five quality turns today, I'm going to make it a great day, regardless of how busy or slow the mall is. Right. So I think that's the first kind of key concept of it. And then I think the next thing is just you have to engage a little bit differently, right? Because people aren't just walking right by you like at a home show, right? They're not walking up and down the aisles looking at every vendor. They're on a mission, right? They came to the mall usually for a very specific reason, right? We
Right.
came
Right.
here, we're gonna grab our Starbucks, we're gonna go to this store, get this for Tommy, and we're out, right? And we're going to
Dude,
this
it's
mall,
so
right?
funny
And
you
we're
say
going to
that
this.
because whenever we go to a mall, which is rare now, we have like we've got an agenda. And if anybody tries to throw us off of that agenda, including the guy with the lotion that's going to make my hands feel like they were
The Dead Sea
straight out of the
lotion.
womb, like it's like, no, dude, stiff arm, done. This is an important expectation to have, right?
Right. So you get it, right? You've been there, you've had that mindset, you've had the mentality. That's how every other customer there is at the mall, right? So we have to get good at understanding like they're not there for us, right? We're there to happen upon us, right? But I think it really comes down to engaging correctly, right? So one thing I actually learned at the State Fair of Texas is when you look at someone and you wave to them, subconsciously we think that they know us, right? So like subconsciously, we in our mind are thinking like that person must know me. So we very naturally will look at that person, and whether we know him or not, we'll just kind of smile, hey, right? Kind of look over at him, right? Like what's going on here, right? So I found that's a great way to slow people down as they're speeding by, right? Hey, hey, we're cutting deals, right? And throwing a wave out there. A lot of people will at least turn, look, acknowledge us, right? See what's going on in our direction, right? I think it's also just about having fun, right? Being the guy that's telling the cheesy knife jokes, right? Being the guy that's laughing and having fun. If I'm walking around kind of stressed out shopping and stuff, and I see a guy just having a good time, laughing, I'm much more likely to talk to them than the person like sitting on their phone, the person that's not smiling, the person that's just staring through people, like waiting for their shift to end,
Dude, you were
right?
like, I don't, because when the lotion guy, as annoying as it is, I am even more mad at the guy or girl sitting behind the cash register on their phone staring at it while there are literally people at their kiosk looking at stuff. I'm like, what? Stop it. I just want to like shake them. Um, so a lot of it, Mike, it sounds like is you have put yourself in the average mall attendees' shoes and ask yourself, what are they thinking? What are they there for? And how can I adapt to them versus expecting them to adapt to me?
100%,
Mm,
right?
awesome. Uh, last thing on malls. If someone's working them for the first time this year, what's the one thing you want to tell them to avoid doing while they're working their shifts or in preparation or anything to do with malls?
One thing to avoid doing.
Yeah.
So I think that one big key I could say is understanding if you're talking to a prospect or a suspect, right? Because the malls are so busy and there's anyone and anyone at the mall, right? I mean, there's no barrier to entry; it's free.
Yep.
So I mean, there could be 13-year-old kids running around being silly, playing and stuff. There could be 9-year-old ladies. There could be anywhere in the middle, right? So I think a big thing, people will be at the mall, they'll be talking to someone at the mall, and they think that they're talking to a prospect, but they're really a suspect. We really don't know if there's someone that could buy Cutco or in the market for Cutco. So I think it gets really good at how can we, within 2 minutes of talking to this customer, identify if they're an actual prospect versus suspect, and do I need to continue with this person, or should I cut them loose to engage another quality person walking around because the fast-paced, busy environment.
So that 2 minute rule, when you decide, okay, this is a suspect, what's that transition feel like? If I'm your suspect and you realize, oh, okay, this is not a prospect, but I know there's a bunch coming. What does that feel like if I'm me? How do you do that gracefully?
Yeah, so I think the first thing I go to is asking very direct buying questions, right? So
Mm,
I'm gonna ask, hey, or if you guys saw something you really like today, could you budget 200 to 300 bucks on it today?
I
right?
love it. You're letting them disqualify themselves almost. You never have to be like, hey, by the way, I'm not actually trying to sell to you. See you later. It's like, hey, here's what it costs. Are you in or out?
Yeah, because if they answer, yeah, we're in the market, yeah, we
Right.
have the budget for it. Great. Now I know that this is no longer a suspect. This is a prospect, and I'm going to go all the way. Right now, if they, like you said, disqualify themselves out, hey, no worries, guys. Go ahead and check it out. If you have any questions, if you want to place an order, just let me know. Right. And then from there, I'm
Love
just
it.
going to kind of change my body language, position it right. Start looking at someone else, make myself busy doing something else,
And I
polishing,
think what's
whatever.
so important about that is a lot of reps know the right thing to do is not spend extra time on that interaction. They just don't know how to leave it, like I said, gracefully. And I think that's a beautiful way to do it. Okay, what's one thing that you would tell the first time mall working rep to make sure no matter what they do when they're working shifts this small season?
While they're working or prepping.
Whatever you feel would be a more better answer for them.
More better answer. First thing I would say, so there's a couple things I can give you.
Go ahead.
First thing I would say is we got to be nails, right? We got to be 10 out of 10 in confidence in our scripts and handling objections, right? Because there will be some slow days in the mall, right? Where we only do get one or two opportunities today. And I want to be so confident that I know, hey, as long as I talk to one person on the slow mall day, that's going to be, an ultimate with steak knife sale, ups or flatware chest. Boom, there's my 4 or 5K order right there in the day, right? Have that confidence. That's going to make or break, right? Those slower days when you don't have as many turns.
Working with Trent Booth and the Veritas Leadership Group over the last decade has unlocked things within me that I never knew existed until they were coached out of me. If you're listening and you feel stuck or like you have another gear that you're having a hard time getting to, Trent's offering a free intro call to any of our listeners. I love Veritas because it's an amazing combo of mentoring and coaching. I get what I need when I need it most. It's also a flat monthly rate, which is awesome for anyone looking to give it a shot with no contract and no long-term commitment. Schedule a call with Trent today by going to linktree/CSP60. That's linktr.ee/CSP60. That's linktree/CSP60 with a dot before the two E's. Thanks for listening. And for some of you watching, I want to remind you that all resources from today can be found at linktree/CSP60. That's linktr.ee/CSP60. That's linktree/CSP60 with a dot before the EE. If you want to be a member of our live Zoom audience for one of our upcoming shows, email bwiggins@vectormarketing.com. That's BWIGGINS@vectormarketing.com. If you loved what you heard today, I'd be honored if you followed, subscribed, or even rated us on whatever platform you use to find your 60 minutes of fire. We'll see you next time.